Before starting this video, I do want to give a thank you to my patrons that support the channel. And if you would like to support the channel, there are some great benefits for you in the link down below. So with that, let's get into today's video. Hey, what's going on YouTube? This is Devin coming back at you with another video today on PubStomp MTG. So I was looking over some of the pre-con decks for the new Lost Caverns of Ixalan set, and I came across the Don Andres, the Renegade, and I feel like this is a very cool and very original commander. And what makes this guy pretty original is the fact that he looks like he is from the Legion of Dusk, but changed his ways to go to the Brazen Coalition. I'm not 100% sure of what happened in the lore perspective with this. I'm just basically looking off of the flavor text on this. So first, let's read what he does. So for 1 blue, black, and a red, we have a Vampire Pirate. Really cool typing, by the way, with a Vampire Pirate. Also on top of that, he does read, each creature you control but don't own gets +2/+2, has Menace and Death Touch, and is a pirate in addition to its other types. Also, whenever you cast a non-creature spell you don't own, create 2 tapped treasure tokens. So again, what I do like about this deck is the fact that it's going that full theft theme. I'm taking my opponent's deck so that I can make them into my own pirate crew. Also, what's pretty neat about this commander is the fact that you don't actually need to go pirate tribal with this deck specifically, mainly because you're making all your opponent's creatures into pirates. So again, you don't have to go into that theme of pirates, but of course I added a little bit of pirates. So yeah, let's talk about some cards that you may want to consider putting in this deck. I feel like there's a lot of great options. Of course, I do want to talk about some pirates at first. So the first card I do want to talk about is Malcolm Kenai Navigator. This is an incredible card in the deck because when we take control of our opponent's creatures, and because of our commander, they will be pirates in addition to their other types. And with Malcolm Kenai Navigator's text, whenever one or more pirates you control deal damage to your opponents, you create a treasure token for each opponent dealt damage. In most cases, our pirates are going to connect because they have an additional +2/+2 Menace and Death Touch. They do have that evasion with Menace and Death Touch. Not a lot of people want to block into Death Touch, especially if they have to block 2 creatures into it. So yeah, this is going to produce so much treasure for us the more we do attack into our opponents. Another cards I do want to mention is Captivating Crew and Hostage Taker. So I really do like Captivating Crew, mainly because you have that constant ability as long as you have mana to pay into it to take control of an opponent's creature. In Hostage Taker, there's not much explanation on this one. It's very good. It acts as removal on your opponent's artifacts or creatures. And if one of your opponents hasn't taken out the Hostage Taker from the battlefield, you could easily cast one of those creatures or artifacts you exiled with Hostage Taker. There are other ways we could take hostage of our opponent's creatures by using cards like the Beast, Deathless Prince, and also Sauron the Lidless Eye. They both essentially have that ability of gaining control of a target creature until end of turn when you cast it or when it enters the battlefield. I particularly like the Beast in this deck, especially because it has that ability whenever a creature deals combat damage to its owner, untap the Beast and draw a card. So yeah, this is going to be an absolute value engine because we're going to take control of so much of our opponent's creatures. If we swing with them to our opponent's face, we could draw some cards with the Beast. Also with Sauron, we could buff up our creatures and on top of that make our opponents lose life. Sauron is also a great option too, but I do like the Beast especially in this deck for the card draw value. Another card to ensnare our opponent's creatures would be Olivia Voldaren for 2 red and a black. She could bite into our opponent's creatures to make them vampires for 1 damage, and on top of that we could gain control of them by paying 3 and 2 black. So again, I just want to reemphasize how powerful Olivia is in the deck because when we take control of our opponent's creatures, they will get +2/+2 Menace and Death Touch. And we can also hold on to those creatures as long as we do have Olivia on the battlefield. So for me personally, this is an absolute shoo-in. Another card I did want to give the spotlight to is Seize the Spotlight. For 2 and a red, each opponent chooses Fame or Fortune. For each player who chooses Fame, gain control of a creature that a player controls until end of turn, untap those creatures and they gain haste until end of turn. For each player who chooses Fortune, you draw a card and create a treasure token. So I don't really feel like there's a downside to this card personally for 3 mana investment. We could either, if they all choose Fame, gain control of the best creature on the board for each of our opponents, and also on top of that, if they do choose Fortune, we get to draw 3 cards and also gain 3 treasure tokens. So I feel like it's an absolute win either way with this card. So another card I do want to highlight because we are gaining control of our opponent's creatures. I did want to take advantage of that by using cards like Fling. There are other options like this in the deck, but I specifically wanted to highlight Fling mainly because it's a fun thing to do. Like you take control of your opponent's creature and then fling it back to them in a form of damage. Plus, with our commander, we are giving the creature +2/+2 Menace and Death Touch. So obviously that's very good, giving that extra 2 damage to our opponent's creature or a planeswalker or really any target that we want to target with Fling. We do also want to take advantage of our commander's ability to make 2-tap treasure tokens when we cast a non-creature spell our opponent controls. A way we could do that in this deck is having a lot of theft cards like Decade and Dragon, especially with that mode with adventure cost. Exile the top 2 cards of target opponent's library face down. You may look at and play those cards as long as they remained exiled. So whether you play a creature from this, they will get buffed because of our commander, or if we play a non-creature spell, we could easily gain 2 treasure tokens even though they're tapped. It's still great value overall getting that ability to take control of our opponent's spells. Plus, not to mention, this dragon is a flying trample. Whenever it does attack, you create a treasure token. So overall, this is going to be a very good card in the deck. In a similar situation, I do want to talk about Siphon Insight, and also you find some prisoners. So again, the reason why I did want to mention these cards is the fact that we are stealing from our opponent's library, and these are excellent options to do so. I do like the versatility you find some prisoners does have. You could either destroy a target artifact, or you could exile the top 3 cards of your opponent's library. Another theft option we could take advantage of is Blightwing Bandit. It does have that evasion of flying and death touch. Whenever you cast your first spell during each opponent's turn, look at the top card of that player's library, then exile it face down. You may play that card for as long as it remains exiled, and mana of any type can be spent to cast it. So I really like this mainly because this is a great recurable way of taking our opponent's cards from their library so that we could get more value out of our commander by either making treasure tokens or getting a big creature on the battlefield with death touch and also menace. Also, I couldn't forget Tasha the Witch Queen. This is absolutely insane in the deck for 3 blue and a black. Whenever you cast a spell you don't own, you create a 3/3 black demon creature token. Alright, so that static ability by itself is going to provide us so much tokens on the battlefield because of course we have all these other options of theft. We're going to be casting so many different spells from our opponent's library. But wait, of course there is more. You have that +1 ability of drawing a card for each opponent, exile up to 1 target instant or sorcery card from that player's graveyard and put a page counter on it. And she also does have that -3 ability. You may cast a spell from among cards in exile with a page counter on them without paying their mana cost. Of course, this ultimate isn't that bad because it starts with 4 loyalty. So yeah, this card is going to be doing everything for us in the deck. We're making tokens, we're getting card draw, and on top of that, we're thieving from our opponent's graveyard. But I do want to talk about my favorite card in the deck, and that's Valki, God of Lies, and also on the backside, Tibble, Cosmic Imposter. So the front side of the card is not really what I'm going to talk about. I'm mainly going to talk about the backside because the backside's quite insane. He does have a pretty insane static ability of when it enters the battlefield, you gain an emblem with, you may play cards exiled with Tibble, Cosmic Imposter, and you may spend mana as though it were mana of any color to cast those spells. He also does read for +2, exile the top card of each player's library for his -3 ability, exile target artifact or creature, and his -8, exile all cards from all graveyards, add triple red. So obviously when he enters the battlefield, you gain that emblem to cast spells that are exiled with Tibble. So essentially you get to draw 4 cards. I mean, technically they're in exile and you could play them, but you get to draw 4 cards off that +2 ability. And if there's a big creature on the battlefield, you could exile it or another artifact on the battlefield. Plus, essentially, that -8 almost acts like a Yawgmoth's Will, exiling all cards from all graveyards, and you can just play them whenever you want. That's pretty insane, and also gaining that mana too. So I do feel personally, Tibble is probably one of the best cards in the deck as far as value engine goes. Speaking of which, I do want to talk about the best cards in the deck, mainly because there's a lot of ways you want to win the game. Here are some options for yourself. So first of all, I do want to talk about Atali Primal Storm. So with this card, it's quite insane, mainly because when he does attack, exile the top card of each player's library, then you may cast any number of spells from among those cards without paying their mana cost. So if you cast a creature spell, our commander will buff it up and give it Death Touch and Menace, but if we do cast a non-creature spell, we'll gain 2 treasure tokens tapped. I will say there are some downsides to this card. For example, if your opponent reveals a land, that's a big whiff right there. However, there's most upsides. Say for example, your opponents all reveal a non-creature spell, you can cast all of those and gain 6 tapped treasure tokens. So I will say there's a lot of upside to Atali that I did want to mention here, and there's no question about it, this is a great card in the deck. I would say there's another quite insane card in the deck, could be a little salt inducing, however, Xanathar Guild Kingpin is pretty incredible in the deck for 4 blue and a black. At the beginning of your upkeep, choose target opponent. Until end of turn, that player can't cast spells, and you may look at the top card of their library at any time. You may play the top card of their library, and you may spend mana as low or any mana of any color to cast the spell. So of course, this is a pretty mean card. It kind of acts like a Send Triplets, but just for Dimir colors. So for me personally, I do like this card for what it does, especially taking control of our opponent's spells so that we can take advantage of our commander. But the last card I do want to talk about is a classic all-star in winning games, and that is Insurrection. For 5 and triple red, untap all creatures, gain control of them until end of turn. They gain haste until end of turn. So of course, this is a really good card in the deck because if our opponents have a lot of creatures on the battlefield, we can gain control of all of them. On top of that, our commander will buff them up by giving them +2/+2, Menace, and Death Touch. And of course, because we have all the creatures on the battlefield and our opponents don't have any creatures on the battlefield, this is just going to be a shoo-in for victory. So aside from that, that's going to do it for me, guys. Thank you guys so much for coming by and watching this video. I feel like Don Andres is going to be a very powerful commander. However, he's also going to be very salt-inducing. I know a lot of people don't like when their spells or creatures are taken away from them. I'm talking about you, Turgid. A lot of people don't like playing against Turgid. But to be honest, this could be also another salt-inducing commander, so discretion is advised when you're building around this commander. It might be salt-inducing to your opponents, and they may not want to play against it because it encourages you to take control of your opponent's creatures and spells. However, let me know down below in the comments, what do you think of this commander? Is it very salt-inducing like Turgid, or is it just fine by itself? Again, let me know down below in the comments. Make sure to like, share, and subscribe to the channel. And with that out of the way, thank you for stomping by.